Good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, from wherever you are joining us today. My name is Angie from Dexibit. I'm here with our CTO, Ravi. Welcome, Ravi.
Hello, glad to be here.
Great to have you on. And today we're going to be talking all about ticketing analytics. So this is a fantastic session to attend if you're using Dexibit and you want to get to know some of the new functionality that's coming and more on the way. It's a great session if you're new to Dexibit and you want a little bit of a housekeeping tour and to see some of the cool things that we've been up to. And it's also a really great session if you are in the business of visitor attractions and really just want to understand how ticketing analytics works and what are some of the key performance indicators or KPIs that you should keep an eye on with your team, no matter what tool you use to do that. And so for today, I'm going to take you through a really quick intro to us and our product, and then I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Ravi, who is going to take us on a deep dive tour. I can't wait, Ravi, to see some of the extensive ticketing functionality and go through what good ticketing analytics looks like in a visitor attraction. So as a quick intro for us, we at Dexibit do data analytics specifically for visitor attractions. So we work with both cultural institutions like museums, galleries, zoos, aquariums, libraries, observatories, parks, and more, and also commercial attractions, so theme parks and stadiums and performing arts and all sorts of things. And for those attractions, we help predict and analyze visitor behavior. And what that means is we integrate to lots of different data sources, no matter where your data is. So that might be footfall and ticketing and CRM and point of sale, right through to digital things like what's happening on your website or the reviews that you've got online. And we add to that third-party data as well. So things like what the weather is doing. And then we bring all of that data together using data automation and provide you with a software as a service product on top that's got forecasts and insights, dashboards, and reports. And our product is designed not just for data experts, but also for people who are new to data. So it's got a nice point and click, easy to use experience, which is suitable from everybody from your front of house team to your boardroom. I'll just take you on a really quick tour so you can have a look at what our product looks like before Ravi digs into the details. So this is what Dexibit looks like for you as a user. So behind the scenes here is all of your data coming together from these variety of sources, live, real time, or as close as we can get to that, depending on the source. And here you can add data from all of those different sources onto your dashboards. It's really quick and easy to create dashboards. All I do is click a button here. I can share those dashboards with my team over here, or I can schedule them and turn them into a report. Say, for example, if I've got a leadership team meeting, I want to fire that out to everybody on a Monday morning before we get going. I've got a nice little library sitting in here of lots of different visualizations where I can simply point and click to add them into my dashboard. And then I can swivel to see what they're all about. I can expand them to get a more detailed view, or I can click to edit them and play with things like filters and style and presentation of my visualizations. So you can see here, I can bring together lots of different data, in this case from many different locations that are part of my group. I can access benchmarks. I've got lots of great functionality around dates and dynamic dates to help me with my reporting. And then Ravi is going to take us into some of the more exciting things that we can do around item and order level insights, overlays and conversions, and some of the really cool things that we can do in terms of derived metrics and more, with a little finish here into DXQL, which is the new Dexibit query language that powers up visualizations and helps analyst types access raw data through our new Data Explorer module. So I'm really excited to watch this, Ravi, and I shall hand over to you to share your screen and we'll dive in.
Lovely, thank you, Angie. All right. So I'm just sharing my screen and I've brought up a dashboard in Dexibit. First of all, just another quick introduction. My name is Ravi, and I'm the CTO here at Dexibit. I'm really excited to be talking to you all today about ticketing because I know ticketing is just a key domain for our industry, and that means it's a key domain for us. So before I get started, I wanted to make a bit of a shout out to the unsung heroes at Dexibit who are really responsible for all of the plumbing that goes behind the scenes to actually take data from ticketing vendors and feed it into the application, into the dashboards that we're going to walk through today, and then being able to look at these insights. Without these sort of integrations, none of this is possible. And often it's invisible work. We don't even notice it or talk about it until it stops working, and then it becomes critical. So just a big shout out to all of the people that make that happen. And with Dexibit, obviously, we think we add a heap of value, reducing and eliminating that toil, so we can focus on the insights. So now that I've finished my shout out, a quick word on language. Today, I'm referring to ticketing, but we here at Dexibit recognize that different businesses use different language and terminology, and we want to try and meet you where you're at. So whether you refer to what I'm calling tickets as bookings, admissions, reservations, or something else, rest assured that everything can adapt for your business domain and using words that you understand. But for the purposes of the session, I will stick to tickets. So let's get started. Today, I am masquerading as Art Vanderlei, Operations Director here at the Museum of Antarctica. So in front of me, I've got my ticketing dashboard, which is looking at data for all of 2023. I'd like to start our tour with a couple of key metrics. So I'm a bit of a numbers guy. First thing I'm keen to look at is my number of tickets scheduled. And here it's in front of me, front and center. I've got 219,000 tickets for 2023 scheduled. Amazing. But what does that even mean? What is a scheduled ticket? Yeah, well, that's a great question. I know you're asking it. So it's hard to imagine, but tickets actually have their own little life cycle, sorry. They do have a lifestyle as well. And what do I mean by that? Well, actually, when you think about it, a ticket changes state through a bunch of different events. For example, in your business, a ticket might be issued, then an event happens, it gets sold, and then it becomes scheduled. And then it becomes, and then when a visitor comes to an event that might be in the future, their ticket becomes collected or scanned, and therefore it's redeemed. But of course, there are a bunch of alternative flows. Maybe tickets get transferred, maybe they get refunded. And this all sounds really boring, but what I wanted to underline is that this fundamental understanding of the ticket life cycle is really important to be able to reason precisely and accurately about any sort of ticketing analytics. And it's the kind of stuff that we love to do here at Dexibit, but it really is important because otherwise data quality could totally be jeopardized. So, okay, back to the dashboard. I can see that I've got 219,000 tickets scheduled, but how many have I actually sold this year? Well, that's easy. As Angie demonstrated, I can just open up my toolbox, click a little drop down, and soon I'll have my answer. I sold 437,000 tickets. That's really great. Again, I wanted to highlight the difference between sold and scheduled tickets. Although I might have sold tickets this year, that doesn't mean that these visitors are necessarily going to be visiting this year. So they could be for visits in advance. And this becomes a really critical distinction when we talk about reconciliation and even accounting and revenue recognition rules. So it's a key part of our product. And on the right side, you can see I've got a beautiful little visualization showing me my tickets over time. And I've got an overlay here. This little red line is actually my visitation. And it's super cool to be able to see both of those things together and really understand what's happening and making sure that that correlates with what I feel and see on the museum floor. But before I move on from tickets, another important part about them is that they also have a structure. That includes what kind of product that ticket represents. Was it, for instance, a general admission? Was it for a particular exhibition? Along with that, we have a type usually, like an adult ticket versus a child ticket versus a senior ticket, or a channel. How was this sold? Was this bought via a website online, or was it bought in person or through a reseller? And in fact, there are many more different other alternative pieces of data to make up this ticketing structure, and often they're unique to a business. For instance, seat number, quantity, or was lunch included with that ticket? So these are all really great attributes that I think make up the foundations of any sort of deep dive into ticketing. So let's move on from tickets, and I wanted to talk about order level metrics. What does that even mean? Well, tickets are sold as part of an order. Within an order, which is kind of like a transaction, there could be multiple items sold, or multiple tickets. This is a really key capability, and it's actually really difficult to sometimes reason about. But what it enables is metrics like average order value. So for a particular order, what was the average value of that across all of the customers for a particular date range, for instance? Likewise, average transaction size. So how many items were part of that order? And another great key metric for us in the industry is average party size. So what are the number of people that are coming to visit or scheduled to visit as part of that order? But those all seem really basic. What else can you do with order level metrics? Well, I think this is just scratching the surface. Being able to reason about an order and tickets within an order is a really amazing capability. For example, what if your business was really interested in understanding what's going on with families, say adults and children in a combination? Can you pull out the orders which included both adult and child tickets? Absolutely, you can with Dexibit. You can even start to go deeper than that. Can you find out what days they might be most popular? For instance, is Sunday the best days for children to visit? What if you're running experiments where you're varying child prices? You might be making children free when accompanied with an adult. Being able to dig into orders helps surface and answer some of those questions. One of my favorites is to find out, do grandparents and grandchildren come to visit? This is a point and click experience in Dexibit. It's just amazing. So that really felt like a mic drop moment, right? But it gets better. Beyond orders, we've now introduced this concept of derived metrics in Dexibit. What is a derived metric? A derived metric is something that we glean in addition or derive from an existing ticket data set. So it's not something that was part of a normal ticketing integration, but something that we add and enrich on top. One of the basic examples of a derived metric is booking lead time. And on the right of my screen, you can see a little booking curve. This is a really interesting representation of how far in advance do people book before actually coming to a session. Here at the Museum of Antarctica, ticket prices are actually free. So this is really interesting for us. We can see that people do book in advance, and it extends out quite far into the future. There are some orders which are placed 99 days into the future. This is a really great example of a derived metric and something that you can easily visualize in Dexibit. Beyond that, a huge interesting space for us is allocation, scheduling, and capacity. And it's derived metrics through which we can start to understand things like attrition rate. Attrition rate is really key for us, especially if you've got free admissions, because often we can see when people book in advance, and we know that if the weather is really terrible, sometimes people actually decide, well, you know, I didn't pay for this ticket, I'm not going to turn up. And it's difficult to balance that with our capacity requirements, especially because I know here at the Museum of Antarctica, we have some constrained spaces, and we have to be really mindful and cognizant of the amount of people in the venue at any one time. So we can pull all of this data together and we can calculate attrition and redemption rates and capacity utilizations and issued and disambiguate between redeemed and scheduled tickets really easily in our app. To give you an example of what this looks like in a visualization, I can see in the middle, we're looking at free advance pass attrition, aka no-shows. I'm grouping here by different channels, so I can see that the online rate is a lot higher than, say, individual sales or via our resellers. On the right-hand side of our screen, you know that this is a derived metric because of this little beautiful pink badge here that's informing us that this is value that Dexibit are injecting into on top of your data set. And again, I've got all of the controls I need to be able to refine what I'm looking at further. So it's a really easy to use experience. So I talked a little bit about enrichment, but I want to lean into that further. Enrichment is really key for understanding ticketing. And what we can do here in Dexibit is, for instance, look at those additional pieces of data associated with the ticket, for instance, zip code or membership, and add a lot more value into an analysis. So here, for instance, we're really looking at visitor origin, and in the middle of my screen, I'm breaking down ticketing by state. And it's really cool because I can just hover over here, and for instance, I can see nice little tooltips to show me that I'm looking at like adult tickets here in pink, and I can see that Missouri seems to be great for adult tickets, but not so much for child tickets. On the right-hand side, I've got a choropleth, which is essentially a fancy name for a map of the US. And this is really cool because I'm able to see a key metric, which is average party size across origin, and visualize it on the map. And straight away, I can pick out some really interesting insights. For instance, Idaho seems to have relatively large party sizes compared to, say, Wyoming, which is right next to it. So this is one of the key things that we can do by enriching ticketing data with additional insights. I mentioned membership before, but I think this is another key unlock, because by knowing that we've got membership with ticketing, we can connect it to so many other data sets that are useful for a visitor attraction. And we take a huge step towards calculating, for instance, average lifetime value for a member, or even predicting what's happening with the member status. How often are they visiting? Are they close to the renewal? And did they visit when they're close to the renewal? These kinds of insights give us so much more understanding of what might be happening in the membership space. Another thing that we're hard at work on here is being able to enrich ticketing data with demographics information. It's a really interesting unlock, and we hope to be able to connect zip codes with census data to pick out, for instance, what's the likelihood of the average education level of the visitors from a particular region? What about their household income? And it's these sorts of second order insights that can really help us make data-driven decision making. Just looking at the time, there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but I'm going to move on. Final stop, queries. Dexibit have introduced a new unique query language, which we call DXQL. It's a simplified way to be able to succinctly express queries, and analysts just love it. It's a little bit like SQL, but it's tailored for the industry and tailored for the kinds of insights that we know our industry care about. So for instance, in the middle here, I'm able to plot first-time visitors across our top 3 products. And you can have a look here that I can write any sort of query I want. Over here, I'm testing whether member ID is null. Likewise, here is another example of a query that I could I could write. And we've got a new Data Explorer module, which I'll dump into, and I can run that query and you can see the results. I will do that right now before we run out of time. And here you go. So easy. It's amazing. Okay, I will end it there and hand back to you, Angie.
Well, thank you, Ravi. That's a amazing quick tour of ticketing analytics. And for those on the call who are existing Dexibit users and customers, it gives you some of the peek at the new functionality that we've brought out around item and order level data, and this addition of DXQL, Dexibit's own query language, and the Data Explorer module. And there's just been so much that's been coming out in the last few months for those. If you are on an existing ticketing vendor, we are upgrading all of our different ticketing vendors to this new functionality over the course of these weeks, this quarter, and really looking forward to getting you started with some of these new features as they come out. So for anybody who would like to ask any questions, feel welcome to drop those into the chat or message us direct. And I do have one here, Ravi, that somebody had sent in advance. The ticketing data is a hot mess. It's very apt way of describing ticketing data often. So the question is, how clean do I have to get my data to get it into Dexibit?
I love it. This is the tale as old as time. Well, there's this saying that we have in the data world, which is like garbage in, garbage out. And I think that's interesting, but sometimes people latch onto it too much. And I think what we've got really good at here at Dexibit is picking out the treasure from amongst the trash, so to speak. And so actually, we do a really good job of even taking in messy data, being able to clean it up with heuristics and with the experience that we have working with so many customers and so many integrations, that once you do get it into your system, there's actually like absolutely some really amazing insights that you can start to glean from it. And moreover, once that you take that step, it becomes so much more obvious about what parts of your data is messy and what could do with some attention. So we've seen time and time again, customers undertake this journey and find very quickly they can realize some immediate value. And then even faster, we build up this flywheel effect where we can identify the troublesome spots, improve that, and extract even more on top of that. So best time to start is today.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those chicken and egg situations, isn't it? That you can never really truly get data in a perfect state, but you actually need to do the discovery and analysis on that data in order to clean it up and improve it. And I know that we've had customers that have been with us for many years, and they're still, finding opportunities to, change and tweak procedures on site that are resulting in more clean or complete data in order to do even cooler things with it. So it's definitely an ongoing journey. And another question here, we're considering replacing our ticketing system. This is actually a really common situation, isn't it? Have you got any experience with that process or advice from other sites?
That's a great question. It's an interesting one. We definitely have a lot of customers that have changed ticketing systems, and we've also seen a lot of customers who have thought about changing ticketing systems and then haven't. One of the great things about using Dexibit and going through that process, and it's very similar to the question just from before, is you start to really get clarity around what are the requirements that you have for your ticketing systems, what are your core needs, and going through that process often makes that so much easier, because you've got much more foundation and understanding of what you need and what you're committing to. And sometimes actually, as I said, customers will walk away from that with actually a different view of the world and don't go under that, go forward. But sometimes they do. So we really like to think that we can help them on that journey.
And one of the perks of that too, I think, is that when you end up changing from one ticketing system to another, you have this dilemma of what do I do with all of the data in my legacy system. So being able to keep sort of a store of that in a way that's really easily accessible, it reduces the level of sort of historic migration that you have to do and sort of supporting all the old ticket setup and on top of the new fresh configuration that you want. And also provides you in Dexibit with a way of viewing both ticketing data sets together, particularly if you end up in the hairy situation where you can't quite retire that ticketing system from some lines of business, and you've got like events or education are still using this old one, and then you end up with multiple ticketing systems side by side in operation. So being able to look and sort of normalize that data across those systems, whether they're legacy to new or a bit of an overlap there, is a really useful thing, I think, too.
100%.
Awesome. And another one here. I finally learned the difference between scheduled and sold. Thank you. That's great. I know this is I think it's a really confusing sort of part of ticketing data is this sort of active life cycle. And it's a really big point of sort of educating data users as well when they're consuming data, is to make sure they're really clear on scheduled, sold, redeemed, and then everything outside of that, as Ravi mentioned, like refunded or sort of issued and allocated in the beginning. When is Dexibit SQL, so Dexibit query language, going to be rolled out to everyone? What other data sources are needed to say get the state specific map, the choropleth that was shown? So a bunch of questions in here. So Dexibit query language is live in the product. It is a matter of us onboarding different ticketing and other vendors as well. So this is something that we'll eventually make available across most of the data sources that we handle. For our primary ticketing vendors, we're actively working on those, and we hope to have updates in days and weeks. So we expect to have some really good progress on that this month. For other data sources needed to get the choropleth in mind, if you're a ticketing system or your CRM system or even your e-commerce say system includes zip codes in it, that's all you need. And then Dexibit will provide all of the other enrichment to do choropleth and location-based analysis of that. We do have some upgrade options if you want to take that a step further to add, say, census enrichment or distance traveled enrichment to that data, where we will actually buy you in a license of third-party data to supplement that with and provide you with some extra functionality around that. So yeah, really looking forward to sharing with that with you really soon. And for those of our users who are already on it, it's just been amazing to be able to open up this new world of all of these new possibilities from data. It really is a huge unlock from the product on this. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and for those that are watching the playback, thank you so much, Ravi, for taking us through this really deep dive into ticketing, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. You're so welcome.